station. This is Houston. Are you ready for this event?
Houston, station is ready.
WTVD. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
The International Space Station has you loud and clear.
Great. So we are sounding clear to astronaut Christina Cook, who is currently on the ISS. What an honor to speak with you here in Raleigh, Durham. So you've been up there for almost 4 months now. How are you feeling?
Well, it is my honor to be with you all. It's great to be talking to someone from home, and I'm feeling well. About a third or so into my mission right now, and I'm just glad I still have so much more to go.
I know that you trained for many years for this mission. How has your training, how has it been being up there compared to the training?
The training was excellent in preparing me for life and for work on board the International Space Station. I think that one way in which my training really shined was during the spacewalk. When I went outside the airlock and was able to do a spacewalk, I felt completely prepared, even though that environment is so hostile and so unique and so different from anything we're used to. And even though I was inside of a spacesuit with a vacuum of space on the other side, that was probably the most shining example of the time when my training team and the entire team at NASA Johnson Space Center just really showed how well prepared they helped me to become. In addition, we train for a variety of science experiments that we do. And for that, we actually work with the experiment designers and the other people that work to integrate those experiments up here. And that's another way I felt really well prepared. And finally, working on this space station, doing maintenance and upkeep, I felt very well prepared. We learn all of the systems on board because, like any home, we have all of the various systems that provide us the things we need up here: power systems, life support systems, oxygen systems, food systems, and all of those systems are very complex, as you might imagine, to provide us an environment where we can live here. So in every way I can imagine, the team's really prepared me well.
I've been reading some of the interviews with you, and you say that the nerves, you really have learned how to just channel them into focus. Were you still feeling nervous before your spacewalk, or was it as you had trained that you just became laser focused on the mission?
You know, through the years of training, I did learn and sort of change to become someone that could take and channel nerves or fear into focus. And that began right even before launching. I was very surprised that not only on my launch day, but 2 weeks later, on the day that I did my spacewalk, I didn't actually feel nervous or scared. I slept well the night before, and again, I really attribute it to the great training. Thinking about the mission and continuously learning about what you're going to be encountering, doing something that we call chair flying. So putting yourself in the situation that you're about to encounter and imagining every step, what you might see and how you'll react to it, how you'll communicate during those things. Really imagining those moments and focusing on them creates a space for focusing on your successes rather than being nervous about your fears.
You talked about all the experiments. I know that there's hundreds of experiments being conducted. And the work that you're doing is so important to life here on Earth. Can you just touch on that, especially for students? I know that a lot of students are following you from here in North Carolina. I've spoken to some classrooms, and they have a huge fan base for you especially. Can you tell them why these experiments are so vital to life on Earth as well?
Absolutely. There's many types of experiments that we do up here, but two, I think, tell the picture of why what we do up here benefits the Earth most clearly. And those are the experiments that we do for pharmaceutical development and medical treatment development, and then also the experiments that we do to hone in on physical fundamentals that help us to increase our commercial and industrial prowess in manufacturing and things like that. So what we find is that in microgravity, certain types of protein crystal growth happen and occur in a more advantageous way, which allows us to understand things like protein crystal growth, and apply that to pharmaceutical research. Another way that microgravity can help us is in the fundamental physical sciences. So when we don't have gravity that's a sort of external force affecting these really nuanced physical properties, such as in fluid flow or flame propagation, we can study those at a more fundamental level, and we can then transfer that knowledge to our industrial processes and get the advantage in those arenas as well. So we're constantly looking for ways to transfer the research that we do up here to benefit the Earth. And in addition, the ISS is actually now a national laboratory, which means that anyone can apply to do research up here in any branch. So it's not just in-house NASA research, but it's research that is brought about because people have a need for it on the Earth.
Can you demonstrate microgravity?
I can sure try. How about I'll float up for you. I'm not necessarily someone who does flips a lot, but how about this?
Very cool. Very cool.
The microgravity environment is a lot of fun. It brings about a lot of interesting changes in the human body, and obviously it enables the amazing science that we do here, but it also is pretty fun.
It looks fun. I know that it was announced that you're going to be staying up there for quite some time, and you're going to be breaking a record when you do return. You just taking it one day at a time? I mean, how do you deal with that? Is that...
Yep, that's exactly right. I really, instead of focus on the total number of days, I do take it one day at a time. And that's the way that I remind myself that every single day I have to bring my best to that day. I like to say it's not the total number of days that I have up here, but it's what I do with those days. And also just focusing on the bigger picture of what a record means. I hope that I can participate in this historic moment to inspire people on the ground, to pay homage to those that paved the way for me to be doing what I'm doing here today. And, you know, I also say that my biggest hope for the record is that it succeeded as soon as possible, because that means we're continuing to push the envelope and push the frontiers.
I want to quickly touch on Dr. Andrew Morgan, who was in your astronaut class. It's set to launch in July. He also has a lot of ties to North Carolina through Fort Bragg. So we're going to have two North Carolina astronauts on board. It's a pretty proud moment for us to have you both representing. Are you excited for him to join you?
I absolutely am. Drew and I talk a lot about my home state and the state that he has also spent many years in. He loves North Carolina as well. Jacksonville and Fayetteville aren't far from each other, both geographically, but also in terms of the types of towns they are, being in such close proximity to military bases. So we have a lot in common on that front, and we're definitely both looking forward to representing North Carolina up here together.
You're taking some beautiful pictures. We're following your social media. What's it like to see it from that vantage point, from where you grew up?
It is an incredible feeling to see where you grew up appear before you on the Earth. The first time it happened to me, it absolutely took my breath away. And I think it's because as the horizon, you know, over the horizon, coastal North Carolina came into focus, it's such a striking and distinctive coastline that I immediately knew what I was looking at after it came around the horizon. And it really just caught me off guard what an amazing feeling that was, because from North Carolina as a young girl, I obviously used to look at the stars, and I found inspiration in looking up at the skies. And to realize that I felt the same inspiration and was moved in the same way looking down on the area that shaped me when I was young, and that my family and I call home. So it was indeed an amazing feeling. And also with that, an interesting thing is how big the Earth is and how few places are familiar to us. And it really makes you realize how special those places are.
Are the views one of the things that you are loving the most up there? I can't imagine.
Absolutely. I think the views and looking out the window, gazing out the window, taking photos of places that are meaningful to us, it's one of the ways that we pass the time, and it's definitely one of the ways that makes this place so unique. It's not enough that we're able to contribute to such a wonderful program as human spaceflight and the science and research that happen here, but that we get to take those views in, share them with the world, and bring them back to Earth with us when we come back, and that perspective that we gain because of it. It's definitely a privilege.
Christina Cook, it's an honor to speak with you, and we wish you Godspeed. Happy 4th of July. We'll be following you from Earth.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to speak with you.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the WTVD portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from Raleigh News and Observer.
Station, this is Raleigh News and Observer. How do you hear me?
Raleigh News and Observer, the International Space Station, has you loud and clear.
Hi, Christina. This is Kate Murphy. I'm the higher education reporter at the Raleigh News and Observer. We're so excited to talk to you today. So first, I kind of just wanted to go back to your roots and ask, obviously being from North Carolina, when did you know that you wanted to be an astronaut, and what's your kind of earliest memory of wanting to be that when you grew up?
Kate, it's great to be with you today, and indeed I did dream of being an astronaut when I was a little girl growing up in North Carolina. I can't remember the exact moment when it happened, and that's only because I don't really remember a time when I didn't want to be an astronaut. I did have posters of space up on my bedroom walls when I was a kid, and I used to love looking at the night sky. And we had a telescope in the backyard, so that was a big help in sort of just, again, that desire to explore. Travel magazines around the house. I was always reading and cutting pictures of interesting places out for my bedroom. And then my family took a road trip down to Florida from North Carolina, and we visited the Kennedy Space Center. And I think that's when a lot of my dreams came into focus, because I then found a place and a way to channel that interest that I had found.
So once you got interested, visiting the Kennedy Space Center, obviously such an exciting time. And, a lot of young kids, I feel like, kind of grow up and an astronaut is on that list of, doctor, lawyer, astronaut, teacher, those kinds of things. But what kept you pursuing it throughout your, education and your childhood, that you didn't just drop off, from young dreams as a kid? And was there anything in particular about your education that kind of kept you working towards that goal?
I do often say that most kids probably dream of becoming an astronaut. I was just the one that never grew out of it. And I think that, being in North Carolina and having awesome teachers, awesome coaches through my years there, I think the most important thing was that no one discouraged me. No one told me that I had a crazy dream. No one told me I couldn't do it. And so that dream just kept right on growing and growing. I think having amazing educational opportunities, such as the North Carolina School of Science and Math, which allows you to focus in technical areas that in my case were an interest of mine, that really helped, because it was a goal that I could pursue in the short term while in the back of my mind thinking about the long-term goal of becoming an astronaut. So those opportunities really helped, but really it comes down to the fact that everyone was so encouraging throughout my life.
So I don't think that we've told you this, but you are part of this honor that we have here at the News and Observer for the Tar Heel of the Month, for people from North Carolina who are just doing incredible things, who are proud to call North Carolina home. Can you kind of talk about your roots in North Carolina, what it means to you, your pride for this state, And obviously, like you said, your education played a big part in getting to where you are today. Can you kind of tell us some of your, how you feel like North Carolina and your experience here has helped shape you or helped you reach your goals and kind of the pride that you have for North Carolina?
Absolutely. Two big things come to mind. The first is that North Carolina is a state of adventure. Not only did I have the beautiful coastal areas to explore, and my family would do boating trips out to all the islands, but you also have the mountains. So taking trips out there, that's where I fell in love with rock climbing, which is a hobby that I attribute a lot of my successes in pushing through and being very focused in difficult tasks. So having the opportunity to explore and to have frontiers in many different arenas in that beautiful state, I think is a big part of it. And then secondly, I would point to the people and the values of North Carolina. I grew up in a town that was very diverse, and I think that that shaped me, seeing people and growing up around people from all over the world, especially growing up so close to Camp Lejeune. That was really shaped me in my life and made me realize that everyone can contribute together, that we work best when we are a diverse group working together, and just those values of treating everyone well and putting people first, I think are some of the things that I still carry forward with me from North Carolina today.
And so obviously, you are in the process of making history up in space, and I was hoping that you could kind of describe what your first spacewalk was like, particularly in the context of this being the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moonwalk, and kind of what that means to you to now be up there, in that same company and working towards making history while you're there.
Well, first of all, it is an incredible honor to be able to contribute to this program. This is a program that I've held in such high regard in my entire life. And so to be able to do something like a spacewalk is not only an incredibly meaningful personal goal, but it's also wonderful because professionally I'm able to contribute to this program to keep the space station running at peak capacity at all times, and to be part of that puzzle to make that happen. The actual experience of going out the door is almost indescribable. To see the Earth below you in those few moments when we could take a break from our 6.5 hours of working on the space station to appreciate the environment around us were very special. I think that the perspective that you gain on a spacewalk is a little bit different than what we see just looking out the window from here on station, and it's because you're actually immersed in the environment around you. And when you look down on the Earth, there's you're one less step removed than when you're inside looking through a window. And that leads you to think, like you mentioned, of how much more amazing it would be to walk on another celestial body and to have your view of the Earth encompass the entire Earth, to have the view such as the amazing photograph known as Earthrise, and to recognize that all of humanity clings to our planet together as one. And just sort of thinking about all those on such a large scale and having the privilege to do that while you're contributing to this program, it was an amazing honor.
And so I know that you're part of the microgravity, an experiment to look at the long-term effects of that, which could contribute to future explorations on Mars for humans. Speaking of getting a view from another celestial body, do you have any hopes of walking on Mars or being one of those people to explore in the future?
I think as astronauts, one of the things that we sign up for is to be ready for any eventuality, to be mentally ready for it, and then to take on whatever training is required for that. And so if that great honor were to be something that I could contribute to in my own career, of course it would be my privilege, and I would definitely partake and giving every bit of effort that I have and giving it my best every day. I think that currently we're looking at going back to the moon in 2024, which is incredibly exciting. And that means that someone in our astronaut corps today will be the person or the people to walk on the moon next, and to do so so soon. And after that, we will be looking to go back to Mars. Whether or not that's in my career path or not isn't really up to me, but I can say that we would all be ready, and it would be an honor for all of us to be able to do that.
So one last question. What part of your life on the International Space Station is kind of normal, or is there a daily routine or a favorite activity that you have that now you're just doing in space, or a favorite meal, or anything like that is just part of your daily life up there that's different but the same?
Absolutely. Really, almost everything you can think of in a standard day down on the earth, maybe other than commuting to your job in a car, we do up here. So everything from the workday, communicating with other members of your team, partaking in meetings. We actually have video teleconferences with ground teams to make sure that we're synced up on complex activities. To meals. We share meals together. Often our dinners we do together so that we can kind of connect with the other crewmates on board. And yes, entertainment. We are able to watch TV shows up here. In particular, I'm able to find time when I exercise to get caught up on, news shows and things like that. And then on the weekends, I have a little more time. Sometimes I follow some sports. Sometimes I read by the window. And, sometimes just taking pictures, which is a hobby that I even enjoy down on the earth. So we do a little bit of all the normal life things. It's just that we do it floating, and kind of all the different little accommodations that you have to do for things like that.
Well, great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. We really appreciate it, and hope you have safe travels around the rest of the earth, and can't wait for your arrival back home to North Carolina.
And thank you so much, Kate. It's been a pleasure speaking with you all, and I also can't wait to get back to my home state.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants from WTVD and Raleigh News Observer. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.